Okay, for this video, we're going to set up your drawing area as well as just a few of the settings to make the drawings of MD4 1 through 17 a little bit easier. Also, just so that you understand, you're going to see some of the things that I'm either talking about or clicking on uh, to get them uniform or consistent with what you see and or can do on your screen. Otherwise, there might be a little bit too much confusion or questions left out in the open. First thing, obviously, we're at the Start window, Start tab. If you start drawing, chances are it will use the correct template. Just to make sure, go ahead and drop down Templates. And you should notice right here, acad.dwt is the one that is highlighted. Just click on that, and you are now in the drawing. Let me close one I had previously. So this is the drawing you're now in. Or rather, it says drawing 1, 2, 3. This will constantly, successively select drawing 3, drawing 4, so on and so forth. As I've mentioned before, I do not like the grid. Now, a couple things. I know it happens to be F7 right down here in blue on your status bar. It's blue. I can go ahead and click it there as well. Now, my preferences, my recommendations, you don't have to follow them, but I do ask or recommend that you at least consider them at this time until you become a little more familiar. Status bar first. Again, rarely do I use the grid. At this time, I'm not going to, and not too often do I use snap, but there is a time for it. This one here, ortho mode, we'll talk about that later. I don't have it turned on very often. But right here, make sure if they are in blue, they are turned on. Polar tracking, which also says there on the bottom F10 from your function keys to turn that on and off. Make sure that is blue. If you want to pop it up, depending on the drawing, right now I just recommend using 90, 180, 270, 360. It's every 90 degrees it's going to snap, and I'll explain that a little bit later. That's what I recommend using. Also, the next one, object snap tracking. I'll explain that as well. That's very useful. Third one, object snap, sometimes referred to as OSnap, F3. Definitely is good. If we pop that up, everything checked is what type of object snap it's going to want to use. I have selection cycling. You may not have that on there. If you don't, as well, if you don't have chords or coordinates, I recommend doing that, putting them on there. And how you do that is you go to the far right side of your status bar, click on the 3 lines. This list here, menu here, if they are checked, that does not mean that they're turned on. What it means is that they are displayed on your status bar. If they are not checked, they're simply not displayed. You can have something turned on, for example, polar tracking there. I will turn it off. Let me rephrase that. I've turned off it from being displayed, but yet it is still on. So again, the check marks here are just whether or not they're displayed on the status bar. Please make sure you check coordinates. I highly recommend model space checked, grid and snap mode entirely up to you. Check ortho mode and polar tracking. Check object snap tracking and 2D object snap. If you want, you can go ahead and select or check selection cycling. If we come across an opportunity to use that, I'll explain it to you. Can be helpful, not critical by any means. As far as the rest, I'll just leave those alone. So when you are done selecting those or checking those, go ahead and click off of it. I've mentioned before, I rarely use the navigation bar. At this time, I honestly don't believe there's really that much of a need or a benefit in using it. The view cube, honestly, for these drawings, I don't believe there's any reason to use that either. To turn those on and off, go up to your ribbon, the ribbon tabs, home, insert, annotate, parametric, view. We're talking about the way we see things or the way things are displayed. So click on view. Right here, viewport tools, UCS icon, view view cube navigation bar. Mine is turned off. Normally this is usually the way AutoCAD does it. If it is highlighted in blue in one form or another, it's on. Navigation bar is off. I'm going to go ahead and turn off view cube as well. UCS icon, user coordinate systems icon right down here. Definitely want to keep that on. That's kind of like flying your instruments for flying, not wanting to verify or make sure you know which way is up or down or which direction you're looking. So that's good there. Next, now if you want to go ahead and go back, make a habit of going back to your home ribbon. Next, come up to your, up here called your application menu icon. Click that, drop it down, and there's options down here at the very bottom. Now I have several recent documents, so they're going to display there. You may not have any of those. Again, here's where you see your new, open, save, save as, import, export, print, so on and so forth. So either click on options, of course, you might wonder, options, yes, that is a command. Either way, clicking on it or typing it in. My computer is slowing down. There it is. Might take a little bit for that to open up. Lot of options here. Now I'm going to just go over just a few so we can get started on the other drawings. Definitely doesn't hurt to look at this, but please, please, please be careful what you change in here and make sure you know to where you can remember to maybe change it back if for whatever reason it causes problems or it's not what you wanted, so on and so forth. But definitely kind of look things over here. This here, files, I'm not going to get into that much. However, AutoCAD does have automatic save file location. This tells you where it's at. This is actually somewhat of a hidden file or folder, so that people don't accidentally change it, move it, and screw up the program. So we're not going to mess with that now, but that's kind of, there's a lot of different options here. Display, go ahead and click here. Now I'm going to leave this in a black background or a dark gray background. Now color scheme dark, this is really for your ribbon and things like that. Down here, colors, this is where you could click 2D model space, uniform background. It's using this real dark gray 33, 40, 48, which often refers to as your red, blue, green ratios. Another option is you could go here. This is what I do. I'll click it to white. I'll go ahead and apply and close and hit OK. This is what you'll see in the classroom on the overhead, just because it displays or on the overhead much easier. But for now, I'm going to keep it as the black. I definitely recommend that. I lost my colors and forgot what they were. Apply and close. I'll just go ahead and keep it as a dark black. That doesn't bother me at all. Definitely easier on the eyes. But for whatever reason you ever want to change things, here you can change color, your crosshairs, your grid lines, whatever it may be. Just again, be careful doing that. Just like me here, I just changed something and forgot what ratio that is on what colors. So I'm going to leave that cancel. So let's see, I think for the most part, display scroll bars and drawing using large. I'm going to leave everything else here alone. Over to the right, crosshair size. When we get into multi-view drawing, such as problem 17 in this chapter, I definitely recommend creating this or making this larger than what is set up as default. I usually use a 65. Some people, I remember older versions of AutoCAD, the crosshair was all the way across your drawing area. There are other programs that do that as well. Again, personal preference, but I do recommend starting off with a larger crosshair than what is set as default. So don't get used to it right away. You might find it hard to change later, even though it can be a benefit. Open and save, here's where we talk about automatic save every 10 minutes. You can change that to 5, whatever it may be. Save as, there is the standard. You're going to be using your 2018-2019 drawing DWG. Don't worry about changing any of these others. But know that you could, if your company that you're working for used a different format. Good here. Plot and publish. We're going to leave this alone for now. Right now, your Microsoft Print to PDF is your default printer, and that's fine. If it's not, you can change that. Depending on where your computer is, what printers you have available. You should always have Microsoft Print to PDF available. That's something newer since 2018. Go to System, nothing in System. User Preferences, this is a good one. You're going to see me doing right-click a lot instead of hitting Enter. You guys are going to get menus popping up all the time, and I find that very annoying. Now, mine's already changed, but what I want you to do, one, make sure double-click editing is checked. I'll explain that one later. Shortcut menus and drawing area most likely is checked. Regardless, click on right-click customization. What I want you to do here is skip this first one and come down here. Default mode. If no objects are selected, right-click on the mouse means, and what I want it to be is repeat last command. Edit mode. If one or more objects are selected, right-click means, again, it should be repeat last command. If a command is in progress, right-click means select Enter. Okay. Now, what I've done is right-click simply means it's either repeat Enter, which will repeat, or it'll close a command. I've taken that menu away, the little one that pops up to the right. Now, if you like that, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. In that case, click here. Click up here, turn on time-sensitive right-click. Check. And what that does is quick click or enter longer click to display shortcut menu. Longer click duration 250 milliseconds. Mill is 10 to the negative sixth. And 250 of those, that's the same thing as 0.25 seconds, a quarter of a second. And I'll demonstrate that here in just a second. And then hit apply and close. Go ahead and go to drafting. Auto snap marker size. Again, now this is your auto snap. You put this is going to take, you should probably change this maybe a few times, finding your happy medium. Don't recommend it being too small. Too small means you need to be more precise to click on it if you are going to use it. All that means is that takes time. Now you don't want it too large as well. Same thing with your aperture size. Aperture being that square inside your crosshair, which sometimes when you want to click on something specific, if this is too small, you have to be more precise to click on the line, the edge, whatever it may be, which again translates into taking more time. You see mine is just left of center here. That's what I've grown comfortable with. And again, your personal preference, you probably change it back and forth a few times. So, but until then, I do recommend making it slightly larger. We're going to skip 3D modeling, go up here to selection. Again, here's your pick box. Your pick box is the same as your aperture, but that is when you have no crosshair, which is usually the case after you have started or executed a command. And then your grip size. If you select on an object, those squares and or other shapes are called grips. Exactly what they mean. This is something you would grab onto to modify or manipulate the shape or the object. Again, I recommend these on mine are actually the same size. This little is, you can just click and drag this here, and it's not a smooth drag. It kind of jumps around from one to the next. I have them all exactly the same size, so for consistency, uniformity, so on and so forth, that's how I have things. So for now, this is almost 15 minutes. That's all I'm going to do for here. Go ahead and hit apply. If you hit OK, it would apply and change and close it as well. Make sure we have coordinates. We have our status bar set up the way we want. We've changed some of the settings. Your crosshair may not look different. You may or may not have turned off your view cube and navigation bar. And at this time, I think we're good to go. you should notice the coordinates. The reason why I highly recommend having this turned on, as you move your crosshair, it's telling you exactly where you're at. Now, if it's not, try clicking once or twice and see if it changes, your coordinates change with each click. If that means it's giving you, if it does that, it's giving you a static. What I want you to do is type COORDS, chords, and hit enter. Now what it's asking for is enter new value for chords. 0, 1, or 2, or 3 are your options. The reason I know that is if I typed it up here in the info center, the search bar, chords, hit enter, it's going to give you several options. This is very similar to hitting F1 on your functions. Several options. This could be a blog, this could be a chat room conversation by several people, or it could be the user manual. Let's see here, if we just kind of skim through these section titles, notice there's 106 results. I believe to change coordinate display on the status bar, commands for displaying coordinates, coordinate system variable. Coordinates is a command, but it's not a draw or an edit. I told you there are two basic types, draw and edit. But there are also those that set up or change your settings, or in this case system variable type setting. Clicking on that, you have 4 options, 0, 1, 2, or 3, and there's several older commands that use these system variables. The default, what hopefully yours is set to, is 1, and if it's not, that is what I want it to be. Absolute coordinates are displayed, absolute being with respect to the origin. The coordinate display is updated continuously in real time, meaning you don't have to click. Absolute coordinates displayed for 0, the coordinate display is updated only when a point is specified, meaning when you click the mouse. 2 is relative coordinates, such as when you're going to draw a line, you click your starting point, your second point will be relative to that first point. You're going to see that on your dynamic display up on the screen anyway, so I don't recommend using 2. And number 3 is used for latitude and longitude when you're doing survey type drawings. Most likely aren't going to get into that anytime soon. So again, we are going to use 1. Just close that. So again, chords, make sure it's 1. Now you'll see it, and I can't move my crosshair, but there to the right in the gray it says enter new value for chords. 1 is in a bracket. 1 is what the default is. If I just hit enter, it's going to use whatever is the default if I haven't typed anything new. So in this case, both places shows 1. I hit enter, I'm good to go. Okay, I'm going to close this. Been just under 18 minutes. And we'll start with using this file. And I guess if anything, the last thing I should say is save. Save as MD4-1-17 or MD4. Okay? All right.